Welcome back to Left in the Attic. I'm Anna.
And I'm Deep. Today, we're talking about the biggest wins and losses of 2025 and our predictions for 2026.
But first, we want to share some news with our podcast fam. So you might have noticed we've had a few weeks off of releasing episodes, and that was not planned or intentional. Unfortunately, Deep's mom passed away January 6th after months of being in and out of the hospital. And so I just figured it would be kind of nice to start off the episode and sharing a little bit more about your mom.
Yeah, thanks. Again, sorry we didn't release the episode for a while. Another reason why January 6th sucks now. But my mom did unfortunately pass away earlier this month. So it took some time to take care of her affairs, be with family, do her funeral service. This comes just 2 years after my father passed away. So my father passed away at 65, and my mom passed away essentially at 65 too. Both died right before their golden years and their retirement, spending time with their grandkids. But they lived like a really, really remarkable life. So I still feel like very, very blessed, and really appreciate that you came to the funeral and you saw all that. So,
of course,
got to get back onto it. Mom and dad never took that many days off work, even when their own parents passed away or if they ever had tragedies. So, got to put my nose back to the grindstone.
Yeah. I did go to the service, and y'all, I will say, even in the darkest of times, I told Deep this, that he really was a true light. The way you talked about your mom and your reflections was extremely touching. I think it would be nice to share with the pod a little bit about your mom, her story, and how that's inspired you and the legacy you now desire to lead.
Yeah, I feel like one of the things about tributes is your mind races in 100 different ways. So if you want to see any of the tributes of my father or my mother, I wrote something up on Instagram, also put it up on Twitter and LinkedIn and everywhere else, so you can check it out there. A little bit about my mother is she was the oldest daughter amongst her 6 total siblings. She had 2 older brothers and 3 younger sisters, but she was the first educated woman in her family. She made sure her younger sisters were educated, that her nieces and nephews were educated. She fought back against the patriarchy that was really entrenched in India and Punjab at that time. She had an arranged marriage with my father, ended up in the U.S., and became this tenacious, ambitious person about telling my father, yeah, we can work hard, but let's make something more important. They moved to rural California, eventually on a whim, ended up in New York City, where my dad was a taxi driver, and my mom took care of me and my sister, where we were born in Queens, Astoria, New York City. All throughout this last week, people have been messaging me like, hey, I knew your mom from New York City, or I was in New Jersey, or I was in Ohio, and your mom would work the phones for new immigrants, telling them how to migrate here and how to get a job here and how to do that, helping develop community there. When they moved from New York City to Colorado Springs, where I was raised, she became a community organizing person there. She helped start the first Gurdwara, which is a Sikh temple in Colorado Springs. She always kept her home open for anyone who ever needed help, right? Like food, a place to sleep. Like people would just come in and out of our house for days, weeks, or even months if they needed help. She was a big community organizer. She liked politics. She likes debating. She facilitated community like no one else that I know. So it's hard not to be there. But I think I was better at writing about this because you just, grief comes in the emotions. So definitely would love it if people wanted to check out what I posted.
As I learned more about Deep's mom's story, I realized Deep made more sense. Because you said your mom built community like no one you know. I feel the same way about you. I feel like Deep and Harshi, his wife, do a really good job of hosting people, inviting people to things, staying active in their community. They were that couple that I was like, y'all got married and you didn't change who you were. They were still just as social, still just as fun, still just as involved. And Deep also shared a quote at the funeral that he shared at his dad's and wanted to share again at his mom's. And would you share it with the audience?
It's like a age-old proverb, but it's society progresses when old men and women plant seeds of trees whose shade they shall never sit under. To plant seeds of things that you will never see, but you're doing it because you want to move society forward. So really feel like that encapsulates my mom and dad a lot. I'm trying not to cry on camera because we have no tissues close by.
No, I know.
We have to redo the shot. It's the whole thing.
No, and
but
here I am
I appreciate
asking.
it, though.
But no, because I think that's so beautiful. And that quote, hearing Deep, first of all, speak at his mom's funeral and share everything he did, and then you ending with that quote was a moment that I replayed in my mind multiple times throughout that day, throughout the following days, the week. and started thinking a lot about the shade that I've enjoyed because of the seeds that were planted by not just my parents and grandparents, but those who organized union workers and social movements. And I think now I've been thinking a lot about like, what seeds do I want to plant, especially in our current political social climate. And I think honestly the fight that's going to be this next year.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know if, starting 2026 and having something like this happen is obviously very jarring. I know that that's been especially hard because Deep is a young dad. His baby girl is just 3 months old. So it's just a lot of things to balance. But I don't know if there's any additional new intentions that you have moving into this year.
No, I mean, it does remind me that oftentimes people who believe in the American dream the most are immigrants, right? And my mom wanted to make this country better. She wanted to make her family better. She wanted to make her community better. And that just reminds me of that. Whether it's like your family, my family, a lot of people, like, we were a nation of immigrants, and these people have put their heart, blood, sweat, tears into this. So reminds me that, we have something to fight for.
Yeah.
And we got a foundation to fight for it. So
yeah,
we're going to get it done.
Yeah. And before we pivot, will you also share, last thing, will you also share about your mom and the Bernie Hillary race?
Yeah, so my mom was really active. So it's funny, it's like I actually joke that my mom had like the pulse of the American electorate. So 92 and 96, she was a Clinton supporter. And then in 2000 and 2004, we were living in Colorado Springs at this time. She was a Bush supporter. And then after that, she's like, what the hell's going on? And became a huge Barack Obama supporter in 2008. Caucus for Barack Obama, phone banked, like wrote postcards, was very active. And I saw that growing up too, and that spurred me to be more active with the Obama campaign as well. In 2016, even without me telling her or being involved, she caucused for Bernie Sanders and was all in. She's like, we need this. And then in November, she was so frustrated that she refused to vote. So I'm like, oh, look at that, Mom. You have the pulse of the American electorate right there. And I think it's true, working class women in particular, I feel like, they know what's going on. So well, thanks.
Excited.
I appreciate sharing this, and I appreciate sharing this with the audience. So thank you.
Great.
Now let's hard pivot.
Now to hard pivot into today's topic. We really do want to kind of recap, the year, 2025, 2026. And I've mentioned we want to bring our full selves to the podcast, which is why we started with talking a little bit about what happened with Deep's mom, which is the perfect segue into our first topic to recap, again, 2025, biggest wins and losses. And then we're going to do predictions for 2026.
Yes. We have 4 themes that we're going to do. We're going to do our personal wins, losses, political wins, losses, cultural wins, losses, and then science win losses. And we'll sprinkle our predictions for 2026 into that.
Perfect. So let's get started with biggest personal win losses. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I can go first. I think personal win is pretty easy, which is I became a father to an amazing, beautiful little girl. So that's been amazing. I mean, it's hard to know. This might be the biggest win of my life was last year. So that's very nice. She's also a good baby, sleeps through the night, isn't that fussy, is very smiley and enjoyable and giggles now. So huge win, easy win, taking the W. What was your biggest win?
All right. Mine is a little bit harder to choose, but I said surviving, staying optimistic. 2025 was a really rough year. Less personally, I guess professionally mostly, but that bled into personal life. So yeah, I would say my biggest win was staying optimistic and sticking to my 3 words. So I set intentions for every year, and my 3 intentions for 2025 was being bold, authentic, and in alignment. And that really is what motivated my career pivot after losing my job with the federal government. So
nice.
Yeah.
Should we have done losses first? Because now I feel like we're doing wins, and then we're going to move it back down to losses. How about you piggyback off then your loss?
Well, my loss, as I already kind of mentioned it, losing my job, it was really disorienting, especially because I had spent 5 years during my PhD studying exactly what I ended up doing with CDC as a federal scientist. And I was really excited about my work. It was my dream job. And so it wasn't just losing a position. I remember when I got that position in the 2 years that I worked it, I remember thinking so clearly that those 5 years of sacrifice was worth it to get me to this point. And so losing the job was very jarring. And then obviously how it was lost. It's not just like I lost a job. We had Congress appropriated funds to do the work I was doing. And
remind folks what that work was again.
yeah. And the executive branch still wiped it out. I was on a team for social determinants of health. This was the first line item funding we've ever received from Congress to address social determinants of health, which is essentially, so we know science has shown that people think it's people's personal choices that impact their health the most, but it's really the environments in which people live, work, and play. Social determinants are those non-medical factors that impact people's health. I did a lot of chronic disease prevention work, focusing on health disparities, and my entire division of population health was cut. And so, yeah, just a rocky year to be a scientist. Yeah. Also a Latina with everything going on with ICE. It's been a rocky year.
Well, what's so funny is like reflecting on like what happened in 2025. So I was going back through like notes, articles, all that. I was like, oh my God, this was the longest year ever. So many things happened. Before I get to mine real quick, do you have a prediction for 2026?
Well, I am predicting that I'm going to launch my business idea, like fully lean into this career pivot, which I didn't mention, but one of my wins for 2025 was starting my social media journey, which for those that don't know, Deep's the one who encouraged it. And so I really am hoping to build on that in 2026. I'm pivoting into what I call like civic entrepreneurship. I really want to get people mobilized for midterms and get people from couch to community, whether or not it's political, just build community is really my goal. So yeah, my prediction is that I'm going to launch that. And I have a prediction, well, for Deep to predict for me.
Oh.
Will I stay single? I haven't actually told this. Will I be single by the end of this year? What's your prediction? Gut reaction only.
I feel like this last year, there was a lot of movement in your life, so you were focusing a lot on yourself instead of others. This year, I feel like you're a lot more foundational. So I think you will be in a relationship by the end of next year. I think so. This is what I'm feeling. I'm putting the positivity in the world. And hopefully there'll be a podcast listener, Jake, after the fact. That'd be weird if they found you through this.
Actually, we might cut this, but there's been a couple of people that saw my profile on a dating app and commented about the podcast, and Deep was like, give them a chance. Definitely give them a chance. And
you have to. If they mention it in the message on Hinge, you have to give them a chance.
That made me LOL. Every time I see that, I take a screenshot and immediately send it to Deep and his wife. So, yeah, it's funny. But,
yeah, our podcast listeners are people who want to be involved in politics and an honest dating circle. It's great. This is how we're reaching out to young men, actually.
That is not true, but that's funny. I want to hear, your personal, well, you gave us our win. So
yeah, I give the win. Loss. So, personal loss, a lighter loss. I've been trying to build an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit in my backyard for the last 18 months. The purpose was for my mother to move in closer with us. It was a quite large ADU. It's going to be like 3 bedrooms, 3 baths. We're going to add a garage. It's very nice, but she would be closer by, right? But my biggest loss is everyone's like, oh, ADU permitting is awful. Permitting in general in Denver is awful. Even though I've been doing this basically this whole year, I did not even get that permit last year. I got it this year on January 4th. Biggest loss was navigating Denver's terrible permitting, like licensing division. It's called Community Planning and Development, CPD. Honestly, awful. What a big loss. I'm like, hey, I'm a lawyer. My wife's a lawyer. She works in construction law. I work in politics and lobby. We can navigate this system. Nope. Even though we had plans ready to go, even though we were like on top of it, just couldn't navigate it. So big loss there.
Oh, raising awareness. I had no idea about this. So
yeah, we're going to have to get a Yimby on to talk about permitting reform.
Whoa, we had the same thought there. Okay, wait, predictions for 2026?
Personal predictions for 2026. I will finish this ADU, hopefully.
Wait, you think it's going to be, up and...
Hopefully it's this year. If it takes another year, I'm going to lose my mind.
Y'all, we need to have a special edition of Left in the Attic, but Left in the ADU.
I want more people to know about this. A lot of people are like, oh, if we just upzone things, if we just make building easier, it'll happen. But we have so many constraints. Like, it's not like... We make it so hard for folks to build, and it's awful. So we'll have to talk about this. But hopefully I will build a building in 2026.
Cool. In your backyard.
In my backyard.
For those that don't know, YIMBY is yes in my backyard, and we'll definitely have to have someone on.
Okay, pivoting. This time let's start with a loss, and then let's go to the win. What was the biggest loss to you in 2026 in politics?
And we're going to also hit on this one, national and local.
Yeah.
All right. National level, biggest loss for me was the passing of the Big Beautiful Bill.
Damn, that's also what I had.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, we had not shared ahead of time, but for me in particular, what stands out is the funding that it gave to ICE. So $75 additional billion. Essentially, the ICE budget is bottomless, and I believe their total budget is like $170 billion. Blows my mind. And then, of course, without having the Medicare subsidies extended, that was another big loss happened with the bill. So, yeah, for me, it was the passing of that.
I also had one beautiful bill. I mean, that was like the signature thing rippling through the federal government that's like been doing everything bad. I mean, other political loss I would say is Dems completely effed up the shutdown debate. The second we had those big wins in November, the old guard establishment, corporate Democrats instantly caved. And for what? I have no idea. I haven't seen that was actually beneficial for us. We could have still been holding the lines. We might have another shutdown debate here, but I think that could have been a big win, but we ended up scrambling as a loss for that. Yeah. What was your biggest wins? Or do you have a local loss?
Wait, yeah, let's do local loss. Local loss here in Colorado, they're trying to build 3 new ICE detention centers. People are organizing right now to try to block permits for that. Related to ICE, I know some immigration lawyers, and they see people that are at the GEO detention facility in Aurora. And this was like starting over the summer. Lawyers could not actually see their clients in the detention center. They were getting turned away at the door, even if they had appointments. And so for me, just hearing of all the barriers that were already starting, that's the biggest loss that I could think of.
I think the biggest local loss for me, I feel like I'm going to harp on this forever, is I still can't believe Michael Bloomberg personally wrote millions of dollars for a check, and now Denver can't sell flavored nicotine products that went to go towards funding. The fact that Colorado had budget issues last year, and we have budget issues this year, and Denver had budget issues last year, and we had budget issues this year, we had a billionaire from out of state come in, have an unproven policy that's going to cut our revenue once again. And it's just frustrating to see that Denver voters kind of fell for it. I mean, they had so much more money than the opposition side did. So Denver now has no more flavored nicotine. And when I talk to folks who still do that, they're like, oh yeah, I just go to the next county over. I just get it there. So we're just losing this revenue right now. I don't think it's reducing any sort of consumption. Statistics have always shown that when you ban a product like this, it doesn't just go away. It goes underground or elsewhere, and that's what we've seen. So it's a loss to me locally. It feels like small potatoes considering the thing, but I just feel like it has something to do with money in politics as well, that a billionaire can just do that.
I knew you were going to say this was 310, yeah?
Yeah, 310.
Well, coming from the public health perspective, because at face value, you see they're banning flavored nicotine. This is good. Like, let's ban it. But Deep had written up some information that really laid out that even if they ban it in the county, like Denver County, people, like over 70% of people, I don't remember the exact percentage, are still within a few miles.
Within a mile.
Within a mile.
And then everybody was within 3 miles.
Yeah. So 100% of people in Denver are within 3 miles of just buying flavored nicotine.
So you probably could do a flavored nicotine ban that actually reduces consumption if it was like statewide, very thorough, and then also if you limited the suppliers of it. But that's not what any of this did, right? This just said no sales in Denver, but you can still have it in Glendale, and Aurora, and Lakewood, and everywhere else around you. So it just pushes revenue out, and it's just like one of these like silly policy mistakes. All right, we got to do our wins.
Yeah, wins.
What's your wins for 2026? Political wins.
All right, national level.
Okay, do both.
Zohran.
Go. Yeah, damn it, I had that one too.
Well, it's kind of fun.
It's the biggest.
You know, yeah, we're on the same page. I mean, really reigniting the youth, getting male voters back that, you know, in New York City swung towards Trump and then swung back towards Zohran to fight the oligarchy. I mean, they had millions of dollars poured against Zohran and he still won. And then also within 8 days, the free universal childcare that they're rolling out.
Oh, everyone's like, Zohran's not going to be able to get this done. He's not going to be able to get it done. Within 14 days, he's like, I'm protecting renters. I'm expanding universal child care. we're getting this done. Kathy Hochul went up there and said, oh yeah, we can get this done. The fact that he's moving so quickly, I hope ignites people like, oh my God, good governance is possible. Democratic socialists are offering these promises, but they can also deliver, and it's amazing.
Local win for me was Prop LL and MM passing. Of course, this increases state income tax for households earning more than $300,000 a year. This money goes to fund Healthy School Meals for All program, which essentially gives all kids in K through 12 public schools here in Colorado access to free school breakfast and lunch, which this is an evidence-based policy. We know that if all students have access to food, it decreases barriers for low-income students, decreases administrative oversight, and also reduces stigma. So if all kids can eat for free, stigma is the biggest barrier. And as former Denver public school teachers, y'all, hungry kids can't learn. So we want to keep our kids fed. And that for me was just hands down biggest win.
Nice. I also thought about putting that, but I thought you would put it. So I was like, I got to also strategically think about something else. So my biggest win nationally was Zohran, but locally it was unions and union-backed candidates winning all across that. CityCast Denver also had the biggest win, being the Denver Teachers Union doing a sweep of the school board here. So I think in general that's just a good sign to see, and that was big. I hope that momentum continues. Predictions?
Yeah, predictions.
2026 predictions, what you got for politics?
I feel like a little bit of a broken record bringing up ICE again, but having them with essentially an unlimited budget, I just feel like things are going to get really, really bad. I think traditionally we had like 6,000 ICE officers, and they're trying to up that by getting 10,000 more on the streets. So, but to end a little bit positive, I do foresee, assuming fingers crossed that we have midterms, that we're going to have blue sweeps across the board. That's my positive prediction. Again, I think it's going to be quite the year to get to November, but if we have midterms, I know that the current administration is trying to do everything they can to not let that happen, but I think we're going to have blue sweeps. What about you? Predictions?
So I have a positive prediction and a negative prediction like you do. My negative prediction is actually piggybacking on that. So starting with a positive prediction, I think populist candidates and younger, more vibrant Democrats who are sort of anti-establishment but not part of the establishment are going to do well nationally and locally. Nationally, I think Graham Plattner in Maine, James Tallarico in Texas, Dan Osborne in Nebraska, Mary Peltola in Alaska. I think a lot of candidates like that, those populist energies, are going to be sort of everywhere. Locally, I think that's going to be 3 races to keep an eye on. Is going to be Phil Weiser versus Michael Benner for governor, Julie Gonzalez versus Hickenlooper for Senate, and Manny Rudnell versus Shannon Byrd for Congressional District 8. I think at least 2 or 3 of those, the left-wing candidate and the younger, more dynamic person is going to win. One of the 2 or 3 of Phil, Manny, and Julie. If it's a 3-for-3 sweep, that's pretty amazing. I think even in general, we're going to see more of a progressive wave in that faction. But the bad thing that I think is going to happen here is I don't think it's going to happen for the primary. I think it's going to happen for November election. So in Colorado, the primaries happen in June, and the general election happens in November. I think Trump is... We're still going to have elections, but they're going to make them very, very hard and very, very bad for the Democratic coalition across the board. And the way you can do that in Colorado is essentially saying no more mail-in ballots. They can say, hey, I have control over the U.S. Postal Service. Like, Trump's been trying to exercise control over all these independent agencies, whether it's the EPA or the Federal Reserve. The U.S. Postal Service is in a similar kind of boat, and they're going to say, hey, U.S. Postal Service, because of election concerns, you can no longer receive or take mail-in ballots. In Colorado, many people don't vote by mail, but they receive their ballots by mail. So I think Colorado Democrats need to be on their toes, and during the legislative session, they need to put aside anywhere from $5 to $10 or $15 million and say, hey, if Trump shuts down the U.S. Postal Service from delivering our mail-in ballots, Coloradoans will do it ourselves. We will go hire people, hire them for 2 or 3 weeks, and we will go door to door all across Colorado delivering your mail-in ballots, and then we'll have the drop boxes to drop them off. Another thing that Trump could do that's going to be very worrisome, that I have a prediction, is setting ICE agents or Border Patrol or the military at drop-off boxes and polling stations and checking people's papers as they walk up. The reason why this really concerns me is ICE is detaining U.S. citizens that look like us. So if you're a brown person, just showing up and you're a U.S. citizen, you now need to go with your passport. You need to go with your birth certificate. Oftentimes people are even presenting these to ICE agents and these still get detained for 9 hours. If the cause of voting becomes like, oh, I can show up to vote, and even if I'm a U.S. citizen, I'll be detained for 12 hours, that's going to have huge effects. So that's how I think they're going to interfere with elections. We'll still have them, but you could skew them huge that way. So that's really concerning to me. Kind of a negative prediction there.
Yeah, but I think it's important for us to start thinking about their playbook and what might happen. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to keep it down because we're going to keep it for the losses right now, but we're going to pivot to cultural. So what do you think was a big cultural loss in 2025? And then we'll go to your win.
For me, this was deepening our loss of trust in government and in science, just misinformation spreading like wildfire, especially with CDC being fully compromised, essentially. Seeing the new dietary guidelines come out, seeing vaccinations being rolled back. For me, that's been the hardest cultural loss. Yeah. What about you?
For me, cultural loss is in the same vein as misinformation, basically, is AI slop. Like artificial intelligence slop. I'm not sure if you've heard this term slop before.
No.
But it's essentially like you see these annoying AI generated images and memes, and you can tell that they're uncanny valley and they're not necessarily all there. And it's just everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all across the board. There's so much AI slop, and I feel like it's really degraded. It's funny to say degraded meme culture or internet culture, but it really has. Just to see this AIification of everything. And I hope that doesn't continue. But yeah. How about a big win, though?
Cultural win. More people now are tuned in and want change. Tuned into politics, social issues. I think we're moving towards a cultural revolution of collectivism over individualism. So for me, that feels like a cultural win, is just the stirring and the starting of this. Some are critical of No Kings, but we still were able to mobilize over 7 million people on one afternoon. And so I do think people are paying attention again now more than ever. And I think, it's what's going to take, us showing up for our neighbor and all sorts of things. So
very similar. So I said my biggest cultural win was the art of protest.
Ooh.
Right? I feel like it's a muscle that you need to flex. Well, it's funny that like protesting signs or protesting tactics need to be practiced in order to be perfected, but that's where we're at. And I think in 2025, people were really in the streets, were really protesting. I think more and more people are going to start doing that. And if we're going to get into this era, like our political predictions say, we're going to need to flex that muscle. So I think that was a good cultural moment. Like you were saying, community feels like it's growing. I think protest is growing, which is a big win. Any big predictions in the culture category?
I predict that this is a negative prediction, that things are going to continue to be hyper polarized, unfortunately. But I also think more and more people are going to start to come together and be in community and show up for their community. For example, all of the local rapid response networks that we've seen with ICE, people showing up, advocating, doing what they can to help, support. That's been something that gives me a lot of hope. And just the resistance, people not being as afraid to speak up, whether that's taking to the streets, using their voice online, whatever that looks like. What about you?
I was just trying to be fun with my cultural prediction. I was going to say colors are back.
Ooh, okay.
I think things are popping a little bit more. I think colors are coming. I feel like you go to people's houses, it's no longer like millennial gray. It's no longer just beige. People are throwing up some greens. I mean, our podcast studio is pretty lively. You can see all the colors and stuff. So I think we're going to have a lot more color culturally as we head into... It's like even when you watch movies, there's so much more color and retro themes, like pastels and stuff. So I feel like we're adding more color back in as we're going into a dystopian political thing, which I don't know how to figure out, but it does... I feel that culturally, a lot of people want more vibrancy.
Yeah, I think, too, that at least I know, like, the red lipstick is related to revolutionary times. And I agree. I think people are, again, wanting to take up space and make noise, whether it's even just with
that's
their...
a good... Yeah.
You know?
I like that.
Yeah.
Take up space.
And actually, I will say, Deep and I's personal places are very colorful compared to, we are not the beige, millennial beige, or whatever you called it, gray.
Yeah.
That's been fun.
We try not to be. Okay, pivoting. Last category that we have, science.
Yes.
What was a big science loss?
The number one thing immediately came to mind was RFK Jr.
God damn it, I had that too.
He literally just lit science in the field of science on fire. And it's been a really rough year for the scientific community.
So I actually just put, it's connected to RFK. I said vaccines are on the decline. That's the biggest science loss that I've seen.
Yeah, and related, I also wrote down the vaccines and anti-vax rhetoric. I have my PhD in nutritional sciences, and nutrition has already been a complex topic for many reasons. I mean, everybody eats. Everybody has their own journey with nutrition. But I feel like now more than ever, it's just, again, it's kind of just like lighting nutrition advice and recommendations on fire. I think one thing that RFK Jr. did in the MAHA movement was point out real issues that exist within, chronic disease, our food system, but then they chose solutions and root causes that aren't backed by science, and that's where things get really messy. So, but I love that you thought of RFK Jr. too.
Yeah.
Off the bat.
We don't love it. It's terrible.
I love that we are I'm curious as the listeners listening though, if they also are having these same thoughts like Zohran, RFK, the different big, beautiful bill.
Did you have a big win?
Yeah. And actually it was related to what you said, which for me, it's seeing professional organizations and academics really stand up and say, all right, CDC recommendations are now compromised. And so, American Academy of basically insert any type of doctor, but pediatrics, for example, are now making recommendations. And so it's been really neat to see people stand up. And I've been signal chats with people across the federal government since January. And back in March, somebody wrote in a CDC chat, I hate to say it, but I have they basically said that we will be at the point where top recommendations are no longer coming from our federal government or from CDC. They're going to have to come from outside sources. We've officially seen that happen. So that's been a win of just the scientific community coming together, professional organizations coming together and saying, no, this is not the science, and we're going to stick to our evidence-based recommendations. So what about you
So I'm not a scientist. Anna is Dr. Anna Mitchell. I'm just some guy. I'm just an attorney. This feels like a weird science win. And I've just seen it creep up in my friends, my family, my community. I've seen it have a very positive effect, and I think it's going to have a positive effect, which is GLP-1s. Interesting. And I've just seen a lot more people have such a positive weight loss journey. When I talk to people hey, are you on that drug? And they're like, yeah, it's been great, XYZ. I know someone who's fought alcoholism using GLP-1, someone else who fought a different addiction with it, and people are losing weight in general. So it felt good. They're like, oh, look, there's this thing that's making people healthier. Hopefully it's not evil. But I think what I've read online and what people have told me is people are becoming healthier with it. And it's that's been a thing that's happened in science that I've seen a real effect in the people around me. So shout out to GLP-1s.
Yeah, I did not see this coming. I am shocked.
I was trying to think about how does science relate to my life.
Yeah, in order to not have an hour-long pivot, we'll just, there's trade-offs. I think there's,
This is what happens when the non-science guy drops a science take. The PhD is like, hey, wait a second.
I can feel all my new dietetic friends / others in this field being like, whoa. Again, there are
We'll bring someone on.
Yeah, to everything. I feel like Ozempic, etc., got big after I had graduated the program and left that space. So, we'll.
Do you have any science predictions?
Science predictions. Oh, they're kind of all negative.
Go for it. I have a negative one too.
A couple of things. I think, beyond. I mean, I do think food insecurity, this is science related, is going to continue to increase. We're no longer gathering data on household food insecurity, which is concerning. Health disparities are only going to rise, especially because the cost of health insurance is going to go up for everybody millions of people are getting kicked off their health insurance. But to pivot to a topic we haven't talked about, I am, again, also negative, thinking a little bit about rollbacks for environmental regulations, clean energy, all of those cuts. But I do have some positive news, which I have friends at NREL, which is the National Renewable Energy Laboratory here in Colorado.
They're changing their name, right?
They changed it to the National Rocky Mountain Lab. But I did hear that originally they had a lot of funding cut, and now I think their budget is somewhat stable for this next year, so that's good. But I do think renewables is going to take a hit. And I know that people in the renewable space are trying to carefully pivot to still do some of that work in a way that is politically acceptable in our current time. So,
yeah. This is science and tech related. My prediction is the AI bubble, as we know it, is going to pop. I have friends who are engineers working in the data sector, also a lot of lobbyist friends who are in the AI sector. Everyone's putting so much money, like trillions of dollars, thinking that AI is going to be this big, huge, like labor movement changing thing, because we're going to have general artificial intelligence, right? Like the next step up from generative intelligence. And it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So if that happens, we're going to have like $1 trillion AI bubble pop. And if that happens, I think the economy got to go with it. So that is my very negative prediction, is we're going to see a tech bubble pop.
Wait, hold on. I have another prediction to add.
Go.
Sorry. Well, also too, to add on a positive. So obviously when COVID hit and everything, all in-person stuff ended, there were some positives that came out of it. You know, Zoom meetings and such, meeting, remotely, all the different tech that came with that. And so I do wonder, as we're having cuts, federal cuts, for example, like I mentioned already, renewables and the other issues, for example, with immigrant families that traditionally might have needed to access food banks and food pantries are no longer going because they're scared of ICE, etc. So I wonder what innovative solutions will come out of this year when we do have constraints, either with clean renewable energy or with the fact that people still need access to food. Maybe there'll be some sort of business or philanthropic organization or nonprofit that helps fill the gaps in these areas. So I am optimistic that with more constraints, there'll be more creative solutions, and I'll keep it there. Maybe some like delivery, food bank delivery service, or more mobile fresh food options. Who knows? So
nice.
Yeah, those are our predictions.
Those are our categories.
Or wins, losses, and predictions.
Wins, losses, and predictions for 2026. We'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah.
I mean, one prediction I have is we'll still be here by December, unless we're locked up by ICE.
Deep.
We'll be like, coming from an ICE cell near you, Anna and Deep.
Okay.
From left in the attic to left in the Geo facility. That still works.
Hard pivot. No, but that was fun to think about the year and the year ahead, and a year from now we'll have to check in with these predictions, see what happens. And so we just want to close out the pod with reminding everybody again of what our mission is as Left in the Attic. 3 main things. We are organizing Colorado's left. We want to give people and issues a platform, which kind of goes along with number 1, especially as we move into midterms and prep for that. Primaries are in June, and then election in November.
Yep. And before that, we want to make sure people are plugged into the Democratic caucus process, which is in March. We're going to have some guests on to talk about that. We'll have links on our website, how to get really involved. That's part of our mission, right? We're going to do podcasts. We're going to bring on guests, but we want to start offering more resources for people to kind of dive in deeper.
Which goes to the third thing, which was to make engagement sustainable, relatable. We want to deliver the news, keep you all informed, but in a way that hopefully inspires you to take action and is not totally doom and gloom.
And we want feedback. So a lot of folks message us, DM us. That's great. Leave comments.
If you have any issues or interviews that you would like to see, recommendations, we're open.
We're going to have a lot of amazing guests coming up. We're going to have guests running for attorney general, governor, other political offices around the state. We're going to be talking about organizing. So this is going to be a fun year.
Yeah, I'm excited. We're going to end with our call to action. And so those who are making New Year's resolutions or setting intentions for 2026, I really want to encourage people to make civic engagement one of those intentions. It could be joining a community group, a club, attending a meeting, volunteering once a month, once a week, whatever fits into your schedule. Honestly, civic engagement's also continuing to be informed and help others do the same. I wanted to plug actually with this. One organization that I've recently plugged into is Denver Young Democrats. I wanted to post a TikTok actually on this and say that if you are single and care about what's going on, go to protests, go to club meetings like Denver Young Democrats, because I know a couple that met at a BLM protest back in 2020. They dated for a few years, got married, and now they have a baby. Your soulmate's out there at a DYD meeting or a protest or another meeting of your choice.
My plug is DYD is great, but also Democratic Socialists of America, DSA Denver, also a great organization. I'm a member of that, but it's amazing. Still join.
Some of these organizations like DYD, they have a monthly meeting, and that's totally doable. You can go that once a month. They have a speaker. They had Julie Gonzalez last time. So yeah, it was neat. I got to meet new people, and I brought
join
a
an
friend.
org.
So join an org and bring a friend. We'll leave it with that.
Nice.
Cool.
Well, yeah. Well, that's all we have for this episode today. Thank you so much. It's been an amazing time. Leave a comment, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening to this. Share with a friend. Shout out to our graphic designer, web extraordinaire, Jessie Broom. She's amazing if you ever need one. Shout out to our new social media manager. And yeah, see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.